Good morning, everybody. We're here at the best 2 days. Today I have Sean from Silver Seas and Charlie from Helmut's Marine. We're discussing the differences between buying a new boat and a used boat. So go ahead.
So this morning we're sitting on this brand new Princess F45. This is the fourth boat in the San Francisco Bay Area that we've had the pleasure of putting the new Volvo assisted docking on. So if you want to talk about the latest, greatest technology, this is it. We essentially have a digital anchor button that you can engage, and then you can drive the boat forward. It holds lane keeping. You can drive it sideways. It'll hold lane keeping. You can pin the boat against the dock. You can have it position hold, tap the joystick. It'll move 1 foot at a time, or 3 feet, or 10 feet at a time to your liking until you're lined up perfectly with this slip. There is no excuse to bump into another boat or a dock anymore with this kind of technology. Charlie's been a, avid supporter of us at Helmut's Marine. He comes out here, he does orientation with all of our new boat owners. Charlie, maybe you can touch a little bit on what you're seeing in the new Volvo product versus, 10-year-old IPS stuff.
Yeah, Volvo prides itself on easy boating. They want anybody that's interested in boating to be able to come out and captain one of these vessels. Myself, I'm no experienced boater. I'm a mechanic. I touch the engines. I try not to touch the controls out in the ocean. But coming out with these new customers and seeing how they just can intuitively drive these boats just with the joystick and the assisted docking, it's really eye-opening that what the technology is allowing. Something this big, it can be intimidating, and to see Sean come out with the customers and really build that confidence in them, and that confidence just stays. And I think that has to do a lot with the technology that Volvo Pendant provides.
Charlie, Mike had touched about, why buy a new boat versus a older boat, say 5-10 years old. Could you explain a little bit about what's happened with the Volvo IPS technology since 2014 to 2025?
Yeah, they've really grown the technology, and they've added in the EVC, the electronic vessel control, and that goes along with this assisted docking. So that system independently controls the units underneath the boat, and allows the boat to maneuver way better than any kind of shaft boat.
Okay, I'm going to ask the obvious question as an older boat driver myself. What's the reliability?
They're really reliable, and Volvo really stands behind their product with their warranty. We hardly come out to these boats for any significant issues. A lot of the times it's just supplier issues. So, Bosch makes a sensor, or Denso makes a sensor.
Okay, so here's the other obvious one, because boaters are scared. We're the original superstitious people. What happens when it doesn't work? How easy is the boat to drive in? Is it like a normal boat when the IPS system? What's its fail? Like a braking system fails, car doesn't roll, right? So when this joystick system doesn't work, now I've driven one, they are amazing. I don't, but everyone I tell them about them, they're like, well, what happens when it breaks? And I'm out. Of course, when it breaks the dock, you guys rush out to make everything better. Everyone's happy. But what happens when I got to bring my boat home?
9 times out of 10, it'll be so insignificant, you might just get a limp mode.
Okay. Limp mode for other people is where it reduces horsepower and speed and controllability.
Yeah.
You got to remember mechanic terms.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It limits your RPM to 1,500 RPM. You get to limp on home, as they call it.
Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah. Now, to answer your question, there are times when you have an engine go out.
Yeah.
I get the pleasure of bringing the boats from the boatyard back here after everybody gets done servicing things, and that's usually when you have the most problems because a fuel line didn't get bled.
Somebody made a mistake,
or somebody forgot to turn a battery back on.
What?
Something like that. Silly things. You've got two things. You're going to still drive the boat like a traditional boat.
Yep.
So you still got a throttle and a steering wheel, and that's going to turn it. You can also, there's a tool on board these boats to realign the drives. So if a drive gets stuck this way, there is a tool in there, and you crank it however many times it's needed to realign the drive so it's straight. Because it's a lot easier to drive the boat when they're straight versus when they're
that
sideways.
was my question, because I was curious about that myself. I have not worked on one of these yet. I worked on LA Woman briefly. You may know the boat.
That's a whole different thing. That's a pod, not an IPS.
No, it was different. But I remember thinking to myself, boy, if that cocks to the side and you're somewhere you don't have support, because, let's be fair, a shaft and a bronze propeller and an in-and-out gearbox, pretty rock solid. Yes, it can fail, but the odds are limited. You know?
Yeah.
Every, it's a joke, but it's, the more complicated it gets, the easier it is to plug up the drain. But yeah, that's,
So,
go ahead.
just to touch on the shafts with a prop-up pan.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had the chance to experience this yet, Mike, but Charlie and I have, and Volvo has their inboard joystick system.
Okay.
So now you've got an inboard joystick system that's integrating thrusters, shafts, rudders, all
That's
into
what-
a joystick,
That's what that Riva has.
which is what that Riva has, and the generations of that have improved. What I've seen since I started here in 2013 is the progression of the Volvo software, the IPS stuff. They were the
Yeah.
first ones to it. They patented everything. Everybody else has had to work around those patents. So when
Not
I'm
so
describing
successful.
so when I'm describing these systems to people, I like to tell people, not all joysticks are created equal.
Yeah.
I will say that IPS joystick is better than the Volvo inboard joystick system in terms of precision and maneuverability.
Well, it makes sense. If that's what makes an outdrive
Yeah.
more maneuverable if you know how to drive it.
Exactly. It is an awesome system, but if you hop on board a Mercury system with
Which
a
I
joystick
did.
for the first time, you're going to be like, wow, this is really good. Like, I can move the boat sideways. That's cool. But when you have driven that system versus, the Volvo system, in my opinion, it's just,
Yeah.
it's a night and day experience.
It's like going from a bow thruster to no bow thruster.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it sounds amazing, and I'm just speaking to the boat owners that I've worked with over the years, because we all know what we know, and we're all comfortable with what we know.
Mhm.
There were people that didn't want cell phones. There are people right now that think that self-driving cars will never work. If you've been through the city, you notice they do, actually. It's a little nerve-wracking at times, but technology continues to evolve. As you said earlier, it's amazing how fast it grows.
Yep.
I mean, it's just mind-boggling when you go from 20 years ago even, and
Yeah.
you go, whoa, this is unreal.
And so, right back to that point, even in the last 5 years, why would you buy this boat over, the 2020
Yeah.
version of this? Well, this one, the IPS generation has gone up another level, and now this boat's going to get serviced every other year out of the water instead of every year.
Yeah, that's
So,
important.
so little things like that are just making it a better user experiences keep getting refined as more time has gone on, and Volvo's done more research on this. It's just making it better and better.
What are the drives made out of?
It's a special alloy. I can't remember the name. I think it's nibral. So the lower's nibral, the intermediate's nibral, and then the upper I think is cast iron.
So I'm assuming that's a low corrosion alloy.
Yeah.
That was my question, because I remember back in the day when I first started this, outdrives were everywhere, and they're aluminum, which becomes a battery in the water if not properly maintained. As I'm sure you.
Maybe Charlie can touch on the ACP that's on
Yeah.
this boat.
What's an ACP?
So it's an active corrosion protection
Oh yes,
system.
in-press current system.
Yeah, and so there's a passive anode on the outside, and there's also an electrode in the water. It sends a small current out. And there's also a module, a little computer sitting inside the boat that monitors all that activity. So if there's any problem with corrosion, you have your passive anode, and then it lets the operator know, hey,
No,
we should see a boat here.
that's good systems. That's what we used to use on the oil drilling platforms. Obviously, we don't haul an oil drilling platform out and paint it, so we have IPS or in-press current systems. And if we do, and then we actually have people. I'm sure you have computers that do it now, but we had people that monitored it, that read the little. They go, oh, okay, yeah, and then they knew what that meant.
Yeah.
So the computer does that for you now.
Yes. It does.
Excellent. The stabilizer. Tell me about the stabilizer.
Seakeeper stabilizer.
Oh, yeah.
Don't
Anything
have,
that meets me from spilling my drink, I'm all on board
Yes,
for.
that's the coolest thing to come along since the joystick was introduced in boating, in terms of just making boating enjoyable. People that get seasick on the boat.
So it
and
does
that's
it
their
when the
objection.
boat is still,
It'll-
unlike the old school stabilizers where you had
Yeah.
to be making way.
Yeah, so on the bigger boats, you do have 0-speed fin stabilizer options now, but the Seakeeper has really filled the void. That boat right there with the 68-footer,
Yeah.
that's got the Seakeeper 18 on it. It's an expensive Seakeeper, but it's a big stabilizer, and it keeps that thing just rock solid. This boat has a smaller Seakeeper 6 on it.
Weight
Still-
of the gyro is what we're talking about.
Yeah, and it's the flywheel in there is spinning at 9,500 RPMs, and
What
it's putting
power is it?
Generator.
Okay, so
And
it's AC powered. It's
Yep.
not run off the engines.
Yep.
Okay.
On the smaller boats, so they're putting the Seakeeper 2s and 3s, and I think even a 1.5 on 32-foot boats now. Those are 12 volt.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. And once you've experienced this, it's just another level of comfort. We're sitting totally still right here. Yeah. It's the same feeling when we're out there bobbing in the bay or in the ocean.
You need my wife to go for a boat ride with me.
Your wife will actually go for a boat ride with you.
She doesn't ask.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it'll happen.
She does look at. I've taken her. I've drug her out on many a boat, and every now and then she'll look at their. She now has the Windy app on her phone. She's like, no.
Yeah.
So explain to me. So the gyro works like when you spun a bicycle wheel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go to turn it. Remember when we were all back at the science center, and it would twist you around like this? So it spins along the center line of the boat. I'm guessing. Are they?
It can be placed anywhere in the boat.
Okay. And then you program it to where its offset is.
Yep.
Okay.
The newer gyros actually have GPS readings on the actual units. They'll spin down. They become less effective when you're going really fast.
Yeah.
Not so much of an issue on a boat like this, but the Tiara with the 600s on it we have over there that's doing over 50 miles an hour.
Because steering would be difficult.
At 50 miles an hour, it'll start to fight things.
Yeah.
And so it actually disengages at that. What I like to do to demonstrate the gyro for our clients is we'll go out underneath the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
I try to pick a nice ebb tide so there's some standing water.
Nice good
right?
chop.
So that's fun. And then I turn sideways to the waves.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of fun because you're doing this.
Yes.
Then you tap the button and the boat goes. And
I've
then
seen
it's just
the
going
video.
up and down.
I've seen the videos.
And then I tap the button again and everybody goes, no, don't do that. Then tap again. So you got a big flywheel spinning at 9,500 RPM. It's putting counter pressure against what the effects of the water is having against the boat.
What does it weigh?
They're heavy. They're close to 2,000 pounds, 1,500 pounds. Depending on the size of it, obviously.
Yeah, no. If we put boat engines mounted athwart ships, they would stabilize the boat. But we put them this way, and they spin one way or the other.
Yep.
On a single engine boat, on this boat, they spin like this, but it's done in the gearbox now. On these old boats, it's way old for you, okay? We're going 50s, 60s, all right?
We don't mess with those anymore, Mike.
I know, but the engines spun the opposite way.
Yeah.
And that created the same effect. Because you'd have 2,000-pound engines spinning at around 1,000 RPMs. And we've gotten away from that because even on a twin-engine boat now, they both spin like this, and it's done in the gearbox, or in your case with the IPS system. Is there a gearbox behind the engine, then the drive, or?
Well, it's counter-rotating props. So there's 2 props per IPS unit, and they counter-rotate. So that
that's
balances each other out.
Yeah, all right. So you don't have the problem with the prop walk then. It's very nice again.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm old. I've been doing this a while.
We're just trying to get you up to date with what's going on and why people are buying new boats. We've sold 3 new boats here in the last 3 weeks.
Wow.
I think we've got 3 brokerage ones in contract, but the cycle of buying a brokerage boat can be lengthy. We've got one deal that's on a 6-year-old boat that's 6 weeks into the deal, and we're still waiting on things to happen. We got a couple other ones that are 5 weeks, 4 weeks in the deal. This guy bought the boat, closed on it in 5 days, and is getting delivery of it.
It's kind of like buying a car.
I did need a couple weeks to get the boat all nice and polished and cleaned.
It does look
everything.
Nice.
We serviced all the engines to make sure everything was good to go, and it's dialed in for them. But it's a different experience again.
Well, so basically what we're talking about here is we all buy new cars. Very seldom, unless we're buying a classic, cool old Chris-Craft Woody type boat or an old Aston Martin. We buy the new car because the touchscreen is bigger, it's better, the gear shift works better, the braking system works better, you like the tint of the windows,
the styling,
all of this stuff. And so everyone knows that feeling. And that's really the difference.
The big thing that the car industry has done has been the lease model.
Yes.
Right?
The 3-year lease.
The 3-year lease, right? You can't lease a boat. If you could, that would be all
you'd have a line down the block.
Yeah. What I've been doing with a lot of my clients is we're mentally treating these boats like leases.
Yeah.
You buy them new. You keep them while they're under warranty. You can run the Volvo warranty out to 5 years, I believe, Charlie. On this, that covers all of your engines and drives and
what's the
what
typical
ifs.
warranty on the hull, on the rest of the boat?
5 years, and then every manufacturer is different with the systems warranty.
Of course.
Princess does a 1-year warranty. Cruisers does a 2-year warranty. Tiara does 2, sometimes 3 on like all your ACs and everything like that.
Well, there's a lot of stuff on these boats.
There's a lot of systems on these boats.
You guys tell people all the time. You got hydraulics, you got engines, you got electrical, you got pneumatics, you got you have 2 different water systems, 2 different power systems, 2 different power supplies. It's
there's a lot.
Now there's stabilizers and IPSs and joysticks.
Exactly, and so you need the good brokers around here that are doing really well.
Yeah.
They have the relationships with people like yourself, like Charlie, with Mike from Seakeeper, and they're taking care of their clients. That's the big change. And Charlie would rather come work on this boat than on a 1999 42 sail.
I worked on a 1967 MD2 last week. So
So you get it, right? So the priority service is going to the people with the newer boats.
Of course it is.
And that's another thing that is very overlooked, especially in a market like ours, where it is very challenging to find people that are competent at repairing boats.
What?
It keeps you really busy. But
people always ask me why I don't hire more employees. I say, point to the ones that's for sale. I'm ready.
Yeah, so that's just a big part of it. Is a lot of our clients, they're busy people. They run companies,
and they want to go out and enjoy their boat on a Tuesday, and they don't want an excuse.
Exactly, and they want to be able to go boating. It changes your this boat. I can come down to this boat by myself. It's 50 feet on any day. I don't care if it's windy or not. I don't have the pucker factor going into the dock because I got the easiest joystick system. I can pin the boat against the dock if it's blowing me off the dock.
Take the lines off.
Take the lines off. 5 minutes, I'm off the dock. 10 minutes of slow water. Let the engines warm up during that. Then I punch it, run the RPMs up to wide open throttle because Charlie tells me I need to do that every single time I take the boat out.
You do.
Which is a good thing. Go out underneath the Golden Gate, turn sideways, have the Seakeeper keeping me stable. Maybe sip on a nice cold beverage, turn around, come right back in, run it again wide open for a minute or 2 just before I come in to flush those injectors. Slow water, back in here. 45 minutes to an hour tops, and I've changed my whole week around. And it was easy.
That's amazing. You're going to put me out of work. I drive
no, we're just going to get you trained to go to school with these guys.
Well, Helmut
does an awesome job sending their technicians to school and keeping everybody up to date on that, and it comes through with the work that they do.
That's true. You really do have to have support, and when you do have the support of a proper dealership that supports their technicians and supports their sales, and because we used to say in the trucking industry was that you have 3 legs of the office, and without all 3 legs it falls over: parts, service, sales. The place doesn't work without one of them.
It doesn't have matter. Them all.
Yeah, without it, and if you work together, you have a successful operation.
Mm-hmm.
So much of yachting doesn't do that. As you know, we won't mention any particulars, but
there's a lot of brokers that close the transaction. Here's the keys.
They don't even know your name. Yeah.
And that's not what we're doing here. We've got in-house technicians that are taking care of a lot of the punch list items. We've got the relationships with the right people for taking care of engines on the proper boats.
Yep.
The detail crew was doing a phenomenal job on this, and it's just it's amazing how it works when everybody's working together to help support somebody.
We are a cooperative species.
Yes.
We do not work well by ourselves. I can't do it all.
Nope.
I can drive a
boat. On this boat, you can do it all.
I can. Yes. I need him still, though. I don't know if I can do it.
You want him to come out and change the fluid.
I'll do the calibrations for you.
Perfect. But that's what I mean, though, to make it work, and that's what we're talking about when you're buying any boat.
Yep.
If you want to buy a 1956 Stevens Defiance, might be coming on the
beautiful
market.
Boat.
Gorgeous boat.
Yeah.
But you better have some people on board that can help you out, because you'll need a captain.
And set aside the boat fund.
Yeah. Well, the people that own that have the money.
Yes.
You need deckhands, you need a captain, unless you can do one of those jobs yourself, and then you might even want an engineer of sorts, because it's not even going to tell you what's wrong with it. You're going to be like, okay. Yeah. Call Mike, he might know.
What's amazing to me is the technology that these guys have come up with is taking it so that 70-foot azimuth right there, 68 azimuth. I can go hop on that boat just as easily as this boat by myself, no deckhands, no captains, and to go run that boat around. I still need him to come change the oil for me once a year.
Yeah. You get oil change pumps on these?
Oh yeah.
Well, then what the hell?
Makes it easy.
I mean, I don't really need them, but
put
if I got the boat, I'm gonna have them do
I'll
it.
bring the buckets. I'll press the button.
Yeah. The oil gets kind of heavy.
It does. I get you. It's about yachting. It's not about being...
It's changed that experience. And now there's the area when you get to like 70 to 90 feet where you're going to start needing a captain
Well, you
and
want
an
it.
engineer. You want it
and
all
the
that.
insurance company's going to ask for it.
But how cool is it to take a 70-foot boat by yourself? Or even if you bring 20 people with you, you're still doing it by yourself.
I know.
Because
I captain for many people, and I end up doing the whole thing. And it's like,
it's
I
easier.
would really love it. Like, oh, that's great. If you people can move now, I'm going to tie this up.
Mm.
But no, so the big other elephant in the room, maintenance, and fear of it breaking is obviously cost.
Okay.
I mean,
So let's talk about cost.
I know this boat costs more than a boat that's 20 years older. I mean,
Okay.
buy it. So,
Yeah.
you're the sales.
Okay, so if you've got the money,
Yeah.
okay, if you tie up $2 million in a boat,
Yeah.
or you're tying up, I don't know, $1 million in the boat,
Yeah.
same size, right? Average person has their boat for 3 years. Average length of loan is 3.1 years
Yeah.
on power boats. Sailboats, it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Um,
The wind's free, so is
so
everything else.
let's just use a 3-year ownership period as an example.
Yeah.
That seems typical according to all these
To the
people.
numbers.
Yeah, to the numbers, right?
Numbers don't lie.
Okay, so you tie up $2 million in a boat. You have it for 3 years. Your boat's going to be worth, I don't know, give me a number. What do you think it depreciates in
3 years? It'd be worth, well, it's about $1 million again. They go about half in that first 3 to 5.
No, it's...
You tell me you sell them.
So the higher quality brands are going to be somewhere in the 6% a year depreciation.
Okay.
Lower quality, 9-10%.
Okay. So at 3 years, you're looking at 30%. Let's go with a higher number just for argument's
yeah.
sake.
Yeah.
So your boat's now worth, 1.6, 1.7.
1.6, 1.7. Okay, so you're down $300,000 or something like that. You got $1 million boat. It's going to do the same depreciation.
It's true. Actually more.
Or more. Probably more.
They go up as they get older.
Yep, they go up as they get older. So now you're down 30, 40%.
Yeah.
So you just lost $300,000, $400,000 on your $1 million boat.
Yeah.
Right? So your cost of ownership
It's the same.
is going to be the same. Your
But your-
experience is going to be a whole
Vastly
different
superior.
experience. And also, when you
All
go
I
to
gotta
resell
do
the
is be
boat,
wealthy.
when you go to resell the boat, if you're coming to look at a boat, would you rather buy a 3-year-old boat
Or
or a
6-year-old boat.
13-year-old boat?
Yeah.
Right?
No, and the prices they do stable out, as you know. Between there's brand new prices, there's lightly
Yep.
used prices, then there's heavily abused prices, and there's abused and neglected prices. Now, sadly, a lot of my boats that I work on are in the abused and neglected category because people came in at, to be
The
fair,
wrong time.
not the $1 million
Yeah.
level. We're talking the $200,000 level, and they buy the boat, and their plan is to spend over time $200,000 to $300,000. I always tell about the cost of the boat again to fix it up. One of the boats in our marina down there just spent $4.5 million to get rebuilt.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of money
Boats
and a lot of time.
3 years.
Yeah, that's a lot of time you don't get back of those weekends out with your wife or your kids or
Yeah.
your friends, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the trade-off there that I see a lot of is there are some people that they want nothing better than to come down to their boat and just work on it.
I do know
Right.
the tinkerers.
You know
yes.
the tinkers, right? But there's a lot of people out there that they buy a boat because they've reached a level in their
Yeah.
life where they want to come down, enjoy it, sit on it, have cocktails, go cruising, go see the whales. This guy next to us here, he's out whale watching 3 times a week on his boat. By himself, with friends, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's easy for him on his 55-foot boat.
Well, I think we've covered most of it, to be fair.
Yeah?
I mean, it's always a matter of price, and it's always a matter, as we said in the other podcasts, what you really want to do with the boat.
Work
If
with a reputable broker.
Yeah.
They're going to help you out with the price. They can go find the deals out there.
Yeah.
There are ways to buy new boats really well.
And there's ways to buy decently maintained used boats
There's-
too.
there are great ways to do it.
There's a great category of boats that
So,
is underexploited.
On the used boat front, it is paramount in my opinion that if I'm buying this boat in 3 years,
Yeah.
I'm going to hire Charlie to do my mechanical inspection.
Absolutely.
He's going to be pulling oil samples for me. We're going to check everything. Hopefully the boat's still under warranty because we got a 5-year warranty on it, which is a really nice peace of mind when you're
Yeah.
selling a boat
Used
that
boat,
age.
yep.
But you're going to hire some professionals, yourself,
Yep.
to
I tell
inspect
people-
everything and let us know what are the maintenance items that we're coming up against here in the next year.
I always tell people get a really good surveyor,
Yep.
and do not let the broker recommend them.
Nope.
Nothing. personal.
Broker will give you 3 different names.
I would go with a fourth one if I could
Go-
find.
just
It's worth
go
the
to
money.
the list of whoever's in the area and pick your own surveyor.
Yeah, because they're gonna find something, and if they don't find something, they didn't do their
Yeah,
job.
they're definitely going to find something. It's a boat.
It's worth the money. It's worth
Yeah.
whatever you paid the surveyor. It's worth the money. I have a million different horror stories about people buying old boats, not used, old, different category. And
Yes.
I'm sure you know a few too. And we could get into that for days. But no, I think that you've made a great case for buying a new boat. I want to go buy that 68 footer over there. I think that sounds like what I need. All I need to do is convince the wife that a $4 million boat is in our future.
You want me to show you some other options?
No, please don't. Please don't.